Regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Today is December 17th. We will open the meeting at 6:30 p.m. This evening, we have the Cub Scouts Pack 367 that will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I will read you in the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee of Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
About face.
I'd like to thank PAC 367 for attending the meeting tonight. I know that they had a little meeting prior to discuss school board related items and asked a plentiful amount of questions. So I really appreciate them coming out and also leading us in the pledge. Thank you very much. At this time, we do not have invocation. Can you do Ms. Padilla? What? Oh. Introduction roll call, please.
Daniel Gallagher.
Present.
Mr. Dan Blackwood.
Present.
Ms. Leanna Harding.
Here.
Ms. Melissa Myers.
Here.
Mr. Jason Olson.
Here.
Madam President. Mr. David Montemayor. Mr. Alejandro Flores. And Mr. DeLeon Akers.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla. We'll move to approval of minutes. We need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 26, 2018.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you have any questions,
No, ma'am. No.
discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent Spotlight, Mr. Gallagher.
President Myers, board members, at this time, I would like to ask our principal of Chavez Elementary to come to the podium. And we've got a special presentation, and I believe we have several students here tonight.
We do. So we have got our Chavez 3rd through 5th grade choir here tonight. They have performed for so many of our events this fall. They did a great job with our Veterans Day, a great job with their performance last week, which was amazing. And so they're going to share with you the music that they have from that performance. Ms. Megan Hoffman is our director. And Ms. Hoffman, if you want to bring our kiddos on up and get them all set. And so she leads our choir, and as you can see, we have got really dedicated and amazing kiddos. They practice after school 1 day a week. And then just as impressive are their dedicated and amazing parents, because you can see the room is filled. And so I would really like to give you parents just word of gratitude from my heart and a thank you, because your kids are incredible because of all of the things that you do to support them and to support our school. So I hope you guys enjoy our performance and get ready, because it's going to be a good one.
This last song is a medley of songs and it's kind of a sing-along, so if you know any of these, please sing with us. It's called Challenge.
Students, thank you so much. Y'all did an awesome job. Ms. Hoffman, thank you so much. Great, great job. We always love it when we have students come and perform and sing. So thanks so much. All right. At this time,
I'll use my teacher voice.
we'll let everybody file out. It's on. I hear it.
I couldn't hear that. Can y'all hear that? Miss Pentecost, can you hear that? You can't hear it, can you? It's not up very loud.
It'll.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello. No, you can't hear me. It ain't on.
Once they file out, then we'll be good.
The rest of y'all don't be shy. Come on up.
Ross, do you want to shut those doors? Okay. All right. At this time, Miss Pentecost, thank you. You're already up here. At this time, Miss Pentecost will introduce some of our amazing students at Little Elm High School.
President Myers, board, and Mr. Gallagher, I so appreciate the opportunity once again to come and introduce a couple of our rising leaders and awesome students from Little Elm High School. And at this time, I would like to invite Hannah Smith and Kofi Forson to join me up here at the podium. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Hannah. Hannah is a senior, currently taking, let's see, 1, 2, 3 AP classes. She excels not only in the classroom, but in the hallways as well. She's one of our leaders. Mr. Gallagher and I had the honor of attending a leadership forum with her. She's the student council president. And that was really a great day of learning for all three of us. Hannah has recently learned that she accepted to Texas Tech. Recom Tech. She wants to major in biochemistry there. As I said, she is president of our student council. She's been a member of our HOSA, which is our student association for health science students. She's also a member of National Honor Society. A quote from her is that she loves how friendly that everyone is in Little Elm ISD and how helpful everyone has been during her time here as a student. I have a few quotes from her teachers. Mrs. Brown, who is her math teacher, says not only is Hannah a top student, but she is a natural leader in the classroom as well as in the school. When students are struggling in class, she is one of the first to offer to help. She is a great peer tutor and collaborator. Her student council sponsor, Mr. Dawson, wrote, "I cannot say enough about Hannah. She has been a driven young woman since her freshman year. Her determination to succeed to her absolute best is one of her most admirable characteristics. I have been so lucky to have taught her APUSH, which is AP US History, and have her as our student council president. She is truly one of a kind." And then finally, Mr. Perry, her English teacher, wrote, "Hannah is an amazing student, and that is in an all-around way. Yes, she is brilliant, but she is also a really good person who cares for others. As the stress of senior year has built up, she has developed a sharp sense of humor that puts everything into perspective. If anyone can be called a true young adult with the stress on the adult part, it is Hannah." So Hannah Smith, and I believe her parents are here, and I want to recognize them as well and thank Hannah for what a great job she's doing this year as a leader at Little Elm High School. Good job. Our next student of the month is Mr. Kofi Forson. Kofi is just one of those people that if you're having a bad day, come by the high school and I'll call Kofi down and he can make you smile. He is a leader in so many ways. He's been one of our student leaders who has really made our pep rallies very student focused. He is at every basketball game and in the crowd and leading chants and getting everyone excited. A few things about Kofi. He also is taking 2 AP classes. His plan is to attend Abilene Christian, and I don't believe I said this, but Kofi is also a senior. He wants to major in marketing and business and eventually be a movie producer. He also is a member of student council. He plays football, runs track, is a member of FCA, and also participates in our student book club. A few of the things that teachers wrote about Kofi. Julia Smith, his debate teacher, wrote, Kofi transferred to our debate class a few weeks after school began, and we found out he had competed in debate in elementary and junior high and won first place. He has taken initiative to share his knowledge and passion with the class and helped me with my lessons. He has the kindest heart and a very bright future ahead of him. Congratulations, Kofi. And then again, Mr. Dawson wrote, Kofi is a fun and loving young man. He represents what the heart of a Lobo truly means. And again, I want to congratulate Kofi. Are your parents here this evening? I want to recognize them if y'all stand. Very proud of this young man and looking forward to the great things that he will accomplish. And then we can go right up here and take a picture.
And while they're doing the photo op up here, I want to say just a huge congratulations to these 2 students just for their work and really exciting. When I had a chance to sit down with Hannah to visit with her, I sent an email to Mom. Mom's actually a teacher in the district, just bragging, but I would say the same thing about Kofi. Both sets of parents, y'all have done an awesome, awesome job with these young adults. So be very, very proud of these 2 students. We're very proud, and I know you all are as well. So congratulations.
Hold on,
Yeah.
Get a good picture. Hold on.
Congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Pentecost. All right, next I would like to ask Dr. Tony Tipton to come up. We're going to recognize some members of what we call CLASS, and CLASS stands for Community Leadership Academy for Supporting Success. This is an idea that we came up with about a year and a half ago, to get more members of our community involved in the school district. And I'll let Dr. Tipton take it away from here, but I really am excited that we're doing this because just the feed that we've received from the community, the members that participate in this, it's been awesome. So Dr. Tipton, you can kind of tell everybody what CLASS has been about.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gallagher and school board, Mr. Gallagher asked me to be involved in CLASS, and it's been such a rewarding experience. This is a really dedicated group of community members who have volunteered their time on at least 8 nights out of the last year to come up to learn about things about the district. So far, I think we've covered, so many topics. We've covered finance, governance, ability, marketing, communications, CTE, athletics, technology, digital learning. And then the last session was curriculum. That's right, curriculum and instruction. Yep. And the last session was very cool. We had 3 school board members and 3 principals come and sit on a panel with us and answer all manner of questions from the class group. And it was just really informative. And I want to thank these folks for joining us. It's been a really, really cool deal to get to know them. And they're our first graduating class of 2018. So we did RSVPs for tonight, and I had a lot of folks say, I want to be here, but I've got school commitment or holiday party commitment. But I want to read the names just to give them recognition for being in the class. And if I call your name here, come up, and we've got a nice trophy for you. So yeah, just wait up here and we'll get a picture after. So if you would just come up here and we'll get your award, and then if you'll wait up front. So Lindsay Crow. Yeah, please. Mark Toby. Michelle Russell. Moriyama Rodriguez. Akil Brown. And I know my friend Sarona's here. Sarona Winfrey. Zach Miller. Carla Lovell. Is Carla here? Morgan Mora. And I know Crystal Dooling was unable to be here tonight. I've seen Mr. Sandoval, Max Sandoval, come on up. Marlo Reese. Keith Vesper. Oh, there you go. Oh, she's here. Come on up. Chris Wigginton. Josh Youngblood is here. Curtis Cornelius. Brenda Martinez. Kristen Abla. Jody Bailey. Stacy Penland. DJ Lascaris. Karen Salinas. Lori Reeves. I know Denise Honte's here tonight. Shelly Ealer. Mandy Chase. Anna Williams. And Tiffany Craig. So again, I want to thank these folks. It's been just a pleasure to get to know them and to hang out. I tell folks that are coming to class that we, I don't know if we laugh more or we learn more. So it's been a really cool deal.
Does anyone, not to put anyone on the spot,
No.
if you're about to, does anyone want to just mention something about it, just kind of what you gained from it? Just about anyone. Financial side, we did spend.
Well, I think for me, I'm a former teacher and I really enjoy curriculum instruction and just getting to know the faces of the district. That was, it brought that family piece together for me. So it was incredible.
I think it's interesting, looking at the economies of scale, we talked about Pentecost here, the high school, and the sheer volume of volunteers and students and staff, and all the things we're doing and making a day happen. So it's really good feedback, see behind the scenes how it all works.
We're excited, proud that y'all participated, and we're looking forward to the next group. We'll start a
Yeah.
new one in the spring.
And all y'all are required to draft someone for the next slide.
And so, yeah, so Mr. Gallagher, yes, if you're interested in learning more about the district, the application is open right now. I think we probably have about 7 or 8 more slots that are still open, and the application will stay open till about mid-January. So we would love to have you become a part of this. If you know someone, encourage them to sign up. We meet on Mondays, about an hour and a half. We always have dinner thanks to Sonia and Mr. Gallagher. So we would love to have you apply if you're interested. Yep, y'all come on in.
So y'all got to.
Yeah, y'all may have to scoot up and some of us go behind.
Shorty's in front.
Can we all like shift, like as a group? All right, perfect. Here we go. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. That's 1, 2, 3. All right.
You also have to stay to the rest. That's it. Hey, Tony. See, I'll do one more meeting next time. See, I'll do one more meeting next time. The whole board meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tipton. And I want to say a special thank you to you, Dr. Tipton, for leading that and taking that on. So thank you so much. All right, at this time, Mr. Rod Reeves.
Thank you, Mr.
turn
Gallagher
it
and members of the board and Madam President. So thanks so much. I'd like to ask Ms. Tarver, I said I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'd ask Ms. Tarver and her team to come up here. So. I think the team should come up too. Because this is a very prestigious award. And so I think it's important to recognize the people that did all the work for this and the state of Texas. And so thank you, Karen and y'all for coming up. So just a Little Elm ISD Child Nutrition Program has been recognized by the Texas Department of Agriculture for what they call 0 findings on their administrative review. And an administrative review, and Carolyn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's every 3 years, and it's very, very comprehensive. And it starts 12 weeks ahead of time, going through everything. And then towards the end, it goes to 2 campuses. And we have some representatives from some of the campuses as well. And so 0 findings is very rare in the state of Texas. And I'd say last year that only 15% of those audited received this recognition. And so that goes to the leadership of Ms. Carolyn Tarver. I think she's the best and they're the best in the state of Texas, maybe in the whole country. I'd say in the whole country. And I mean that. I mean that. They do a fantastic job for our kids. And I just want to say thank you for all y'all do. And in honor of that, we'd like to present you with this from the Texas Department of Agriculture. So. Would you like to say anything?
And I will echo, we're going to do a quick picture, I think. I'll echo that. Carolyn and your team, you guys do an amazing job, and we truly do appreciate. Oh, yeah.
Whatever one you get.
Yeah.
If we don't outnumber them.
Trust me, they're not all here.
Ready? There we go. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rod.
Yeah, thank you. Thank y'all. Thanks for your help.
I am not going to say it.
All right, at this time, do we have any citizen input, Ms. Badia? I can't even speak right now. Badia. Thank you. Oh, tongue-tied tonight. All right, we are actually moving one item under action items 10A to before we close. So we'll move into discuss and approve the annual financial report for year ending August 31st, 2018. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, President Myers and Board Trustees and Superintendent Gallagher. Yes, we have Dan Ton here from our independent audit firm who's going to present to you the 2018 year-end audit results.
Thank you. Board, it's a pleasure to be here tonight and to go over the audit results with you. We concluded the audit over the last 2 to 3 months. The audit went very well. One of the things that you had in your packet was a letter that's on our firm letterhead. This letter is a required communication to the board as the body that's charged with governance. It's designed to be a high-level executive summary, if you will, to point out any significant issues or problems that arose during audit. I'm happy to report that there were none. So most of the information in here just advises you of that. There is one thing I want to point out on page 2. There was a fairly significant accounting standard that had to be adopted by all governmental entities during the current fiscal year or the 2018 fiscal year. It had to do with recording of a liability for your participation in TRS Care, which is the statewide retiree health insurance program. I'm not going to go into detail about it right now. We'll look at it a little bit more in a moment. But it did require a prior period adjustment, which was to record the beginning of the year liability. Since it was a new standard, it had not recorded in prior years. So the standard states that you make a prior period adjustment to record the beginning liability, and then you adjust to the ending liability during the current year. And so that prior period adjustment was $37.1 million. That's about the middle of the page on page 2. The rest of the information just tells you that there were no uncorrected misstatements. There's no difficulties encountered during the audit. There were no disagreements with management, no consultations with other auditors, and no other significant issues. So we'll look at that TRS Care issue just a little bit more in a moment. I do want to go through the actual audit report, point out just some of the highlights, and then be available to answer questions. Our independent auditor's report is on pages 5 and 6. It's what's referred to as an unmodified report, meaning that there are no reasons to modify our standard opinion. So it's a clean opinion. It's the highest level of reporting that you can receive as a governmental entity. There's no compliance or finding issues in the report. The second page of the report refers to the new standard at the top of the page. And then the rest of the report, it talks about 2 additional reports that are in the back of the report having to do with your state and federal grant programs, and we'll look at those quickly. I want to start by switching over to the fund basis financial statements. Those begin on page 20. These are the more traditional fund by fund financial statements that governmental entities report on. Each fund is shown separately.
I'm sorry, we actually don't have the report, so it's not, we don't see it in board book. So we're going to go ahead and, do you have a copy of it?
We've got some copies.
Hard copies would be perfect. If we could do that, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yes. That auditor's report that I just went through was on pages 5 and 6. And now we're talking about the fund financial statements that begin on page 20. You can see the different funds are shown separately: the general fund, the debt service fund, capital projects fund, and then other funds. The second number from the bottom, your general fund, ended the year with $28.9 million. 8 million of that is assigned for future construction and renovation projects. The fund balance increased by 1.1 million, which is shown on pages 4. Your debt service fund is in a very healthy shape. It's $5.3 million fund balance. I want to go back just a minute. Your unassigned fund balance in the general fund is 20.8 million. That's a very healthy amount. It is 31% of your expenditures. I believe that's the right number. Yeah, 31.6% of your expenditures. So it's somewhere between 3 and 4 months, a little closer to 4 months of operating expenses, that's considered a positive, healthy fund balance. Yours is growing a little as your budget grows, so that's good. And then back to page 20, your capital projects fund has a fund balance of 176 million. That's primarily the result of the bond issues that were done in the spring of 2018. 2 different bond issues totaling about 176 million. So that's the remaining balance of those bond issues, the unspent funds. Again, you're on pages 24 and 25. The general fund increased by 1.1 million. The debt service fund increased by 853,000. And of course, the capital projects increased by 167 million due to those bond issues, less what was spent. You spent about 15.8 million, not all from those bond issues, but from previous bond proceeds. So I think the district is in good shape financially in terms of the funds. That's really the primary accounts that regulators and the TEA and bond agents look at in terms of your underlying credit rating and things like that. The other thing that's positive is your property values are going up significantly. Your property values for this year were up about 20%. And then also your enrollment. And those are the really 3 main financial indicators that most bond analysts look at is your fund financials, your taxable values, and your enrollment growth. Now I want to go back and look at the government-wide financial statements just real briefly. These are the ones that include the liability for the TRS Care program. They also include a liability for the pension liability. The pension liability was recorded 5 years ago, basically the way that the TRS Care liability was through a new standard by the Governmental Accounting Standard Board. And those are shown on lines 2540 and 2545. The TRS Care is referred to as OPEB. That stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. And it meets the definition of an OPEB plan, so we have to record that liability. It's actually a significantly higher liability than the pension liability, and that's because the way the program is designed, it's designed as a pay-as-you-go program. So the money that's collected each year is used to fund that year's expenses, and it really has no underlying assets. It's kind of like Medicare, Social Security. Whereas the pension plan has a significant trust fund made up of contributions from school districts in the state and employees. And so its net liability is not as great as the TRS Care program. The result of that, as you can see at the bottom of page 17, resulted in a negative net position on a government-wide basis. Even though your governmental funds have very positive fund balances, when you add in your debt and your capital assets and these pension and OPEB liabilities, it makes your net position negative, as well as your unrestricted net position. That's not uncommon, especially in a fast growth district. Just about all the fast growth districts that we deal with, and we audit about 30 school districts, we're seeing negative net position. The TEA recognizes that, and for FIRST purposes, your FIRST rating, there's an indicator related to net position, but they allow you to add back those pension liabilities and OPEB liabilities, so you pass that indicator, even though on your financial statements it shows as a negative amount. So that's probably more than you wanted to know about OPEB and TRS Care, but it is a significant new standard, and it's not unique to Little Elm. Every school district in Texas is dealing with this. And otherwise, I think the district's in very good financial condition. I did want to just touch on one other thing. As I told you earlier, there's some additional reports in the back of the audit. These have to do with your grant programs. They begin on page 85 and go through 88. The first one deals with grant programs in general, and the second one deals with major federal programs. Both of the reports are unmodified. There's no findings, no compliance issues. The report on your federal programs, we define major federal programs under the uniform guidance. We have to look at certain programs over a 3-year period on a rotation basis. And it just so happens that last year, the child nutrition program was one of the major programs that we looked at, and we didn't have any findings either. So the audit that we do is much more financial in nature. The TDA audit includes some of that, but they also look at much more of the detail in terms of the menu planning and meal content and a lot of the things that are really not financial related. The other major program, Title I program, and neither one of those programs had any findings. The only finding that we had to do with the depository contract with the bank. The bank and your third-party collateral agent, under the agreement that you have with them, are supposed to maintain collateral for all of your bank deposits. And there was one day during the year when they failed to do that, and your deposits were actually undersecured by $642,000. That was on about a $36 million balance, so they were very close, but that is a compliance issue with the Public Funds Investment Act that we're required to audit your public funds. So the district has implemented a corrective action plan on that. It's already been done. They've switched over some of the tax deposits from going into your depository to going into one of your investment pools. And so that removes a lot of the large deposits that hit the depository bank. So I think that will take care of the problem. Otherwise, everything looks good. As I said, the district is in good financial condition, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any question from the board?
I might email later. But no, it looks pretty straightforward. I mean, but there's no findings.
All right, then all of those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, and I'd like to just say thank you to the staff. They do a lot of work, Mr. Anderson and his staff. They do a lot of work to get ready for the audit and really do a good job of getting us all the information that we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, the board will recess into closed meeting and PL1 as permitted by the Texas Opens Meeting Act, subchapter 51.072 and 551.074. The time is 7:22. We'll come back into open session. It is 8:29. First up, reports of the superintendent.
Mr. Martin, thank you. He's going to join us at the podium and give us an update on our progress with the middle schools.
President, board members, superintendent, good evening. Later on this evening, we'll be bringing the project budgets and the GMPs for both of the middle schools as well as some other items. But I was asked to present to you tonight just a brief overview of where we've come from when you started on this journey and what's led us to tonight. Helping me with that storyline will be members of our leadership here, Dr. Mika, Deputy Superintendent Ross Roberts, our District Director of Technology, Clay Walker, and our Director of Operations, Rod Reeves. I'm going to ask them to follow me after I take you through this little timeline. On your monitors, you'll see, if you remember back in 2015, a lot of this predates me, this kind of stuff, but you did approve the Architects with Bond program, and I appreciate that. In November of 17, the voters passed the bond election. An instructional design committee was formed, and Cindy, I assume that you were leading that effort. In December of that year, you approved the construction delivery method. Area campus tours were started to be made by the committee, and they started gathering information and determining what it was and how they wanted to teach out of these new schools. In January of 18 of this year, some additional tours were made. They started doing the program development of all the bits and pieces that they wanted to see take place in this school. In February, we approved the bond sale, which got us funding for both schools, and we issued our CM RFQs at that time. In March, we opened and evaluated them, began developing our floor plans. April of 18, you approved the CMs for each of the schools, actually for the board, for the bond program in general. You named the two middle schools. Again, we started looking at furniture, how it can be used, what type of activities they want to be able to have in the classrooms. In May, we interviewed those furniture vendors. You then assigned the CMs to each of the schools. June of this year, we began construction plans and specifications, and that carried on through till September, all the way through September. In October, then, we actually had the bid documents sent out to the CMs for sub pricing. November, we received and opened the sub bids, finalized our GMPs, and then we're here this month to finalize and present the master budgets to you. We're ready to move forward as soon as you are. Our CMs are represented tonight, and I think they're ready to go too. But before we get into that, later on in the agenda, I'm going to ask Dr. Mika if she'll come and relate to you some of the activities that have taken place.
Good evening, Board President Meyer, Superintendent Gallagher, and board members. Over the past year, as Rick said, that we've worked in a very collaborative manner between the curriculum department, other program leadership, campus leadership, and teacher committees. And we worked collaboratively with the construction team, particularly to propose learning environments that we wanted our students to have the opportunities in these two middle schools. We visited several schools and districts across Texas in order to propose the learning environments. And they've actually been the best of the best that we consider have been incorporated into the designs as a result of the collaboration. In the designs, you'll see learning dens with innovative and flexible teaching and learning spaces. You'll see collaborative teacher design centers. You'll see learning stairs, outdoor learning spaces, a maker space, and many collaboration learning spaces throughout the buildings. And we're very excited about the process and the opportunity to collaborate as a district on the design of the two new middle school learning centers, learning spaces.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Gallagher. I have the privilege of standing up here and talking briefly about our journey in terms of the safety and security piece. And so myself, along with our safety and security consultant, Mr. Coburn, have been a part of this collaborative process where we've been in multiple meetings to ensure that our foundation in terms of safety and security is being incorporated into the plans at Walker and Strike. And so some highlights pertaining to that are our cameras, which we will have over 100 cameras up and running at those campuses that are strategically placed and installed in those buildings. Also secured vestibules for visitors, as well as controlled access points, which is very big for us, and that is where our key fobs are accessing those points of entry, whether they are storage rooms inside or perimeter doors. And speaking of, one of our last meetings that I was involved with Mr. Martin, Mr. Reeves, I believe, along with our architects, is that we planned and talked about our perimeter doors and points of entry and where our cameras are going to be placed. So controlled access points are very important to our safety and security, as well as armor glazing of windows. Again, specifics are left out for a reason because of our safety and security plan, but looking at having that glazing of the windows to stop penetration, as well as lockdown provisions for the overall campus, meaning we will have a lockdown access button at the front of our campuses of Strike and Walker, which will lock down the entire building automatically, as well as the individual pods or dens where the students remain in the learning environments. It goes even a step further where we will make those access lockdown buttons in the individual dens as well, so that in case of an active shooter, the teachers can actually go in there and lock a gate, which will secure the kids back and decrease visibility.
Clay's going to come and share with you some of the technology that we have, and then Rod will come and talk to you about finishes in the building.
Good evening. So as a technology department, we are a support organization. So basically we took what they have done and they're kind of driving what's happening. And our job is to come in and to support it from technology. So pretty much we're standard as far as we'll have phones in the classroom that will kind of go along with the safety and security. So we'll have two-way communication available as well. We'll also have obviously full Wi-Fi coverage to handle the capacity. And a couple of things that are a little bit different than our other buildings. One of them is the Showcase IDF, which Mr. Gallagher says I have to keep clean because it's going to be nice. And we're going to try to make it towards a really engineering wing, kind of wanting to display a little bit more, not hide everything. It's kind of showcase it. So we're going to make sure that the area where the switches and the wires are, they're going to be extra neat, and we're going to try to keep them extra clean. As well, rather than have, because we are such a mobile building, we're not set like we are now. We'll have mobile TV or displays for the classrooms. So we're not going to have projectors and screens. We'll have displays that teachers will be able to rearrange as they need to. So those are kind of the highlights. Great, thank you.
Good evening again. So I'm here to talk from the operational side of things. And so I appreciate Mr. Martin including us in the discussions and just giving our perspective on types of materials that go in the building to help, on the back end of those that are, cleaning and working hard every day. And so some of those would be, increased efficiency in our RTE rooftop units. That'd be a higher SEER rating that we're doing. We're also looking at having some direct drive motors and fans instead of the belt drive. So that kind of helps us on our maintenance side of things. Also to have bipolar ionization for those units as well. And it helps with the indoor air quality that we're seeing. We also have no VCT in the building. And so if you notice, some of our buildings here have VCT where we have to wax twice a year. And so we have to strip that and put 5 coats of wax on that. So we're not going to have any of that. We're going to have what they call LVT. which is luxury tile, or we'll have polished concrete. And so we're really happy that we won't be doing any of that. We also will have artificial turf that we'll see outside. So, as part of the Lisa group, if you go over to Powell or Lakeside Middle School, Marion Field, you'll see they're on there 24 hours a day. And so it's tough to have grass grow. So thank goodness that we're going to have artificial turf. It's a monofilament that's twisted, so it's very, very strong. Also, it has what they call an E-layer, so that'll help with safety and make sure it's a little bit of a cushion. We'll have a full poured track system too. That's a little bit of a higher grade, but over time maintenance is very, very minimal. And so we won't have to do any structural coats on those. We're going to have LED lighting. The energy code kind of dictates that now, but we see a lot of energy efficient on that, especially with the amount of buildings that we'll be adding over time. So the more we can reduce those operating costs, the better. We also have updated irrigation systems. We have an updated energy management system, not only for these two new middle schools, but for the entire district. And so we'll be able to monitor all our HVAC set points and make sure that we limit those when people are in the building. If not there, those might get raised or lowered to help reduce energy cost. We also have just updated sinks, plumbing fixtures, different things like that. So that's kind of the highlights of what we're doing on the operations side. But thanks again to Rick for allowing us to put input. So thank you.
Questions? It's a team effort. We're looking forward to keep moving with the team.
I only had one question, just as far as, I'm assuming Gold Star, they're queued up as far as how all the transportation items are going to work.
They've been very involved in that. The cities have wanted that from our traffic management standpoint and the traffic analysis at both campuses. So yes, JW has helped us understand how many buses will need to be needed at each campus and what the ridership percentage is, which is, again, some of the things that the city traffic folks wanted. So yes, ma'am, they've been involved. Okay,
Any questions?
thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we will move now into action items. First up will be discuss and approve financial reports. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening again, Board of Trustees. You'll see that you have the October 2018 financials in your board book. And the complete August 2018 financials will be presented with the audit report, which we received tonight. And so that'll be included in at the next January board meeting. The budget amendments include all amendments through December 2018, 2018-19 fiscal year. And the fund balance is balanced. The major budget amendments for 2018-19 fiscal year is, well, there weren't any in the general fund. However, in the Federal Child Nutrition Fund, there's a $424,000 budget amendment for excess fund balance plan that she brings pretty much each year. As she is saving, she has to submit a plan to TDA on how to spend that excess fund balance. And other general fund future financial considerations, which I've brought to you all the last couple months, just to keep it in front of us as we move through the next few long-term 3, 4, 5 years. The increased operating costs, again, for the new facilities, which they're talking about today. We have about $900,000 kind of budget in our forecast for each of the 2 middle schools. Possibility of a slowdown in growth of taxable assessed values resulting in a decrease in year-over-year in the general fund revenue. Ongoing preventive and deferred maintenance cost of our older buildings. And then the approved capital reimbursement resolution from 2017 bond of up to $10 million. And then also now the Texas 86th legislative session, which will start here, I guess, January 6th. And it just seems like there will be some decisions made on school finance in this one. When you kind of watch all the discussions going on both sides or all 3 sides, how many there are. So we'll continue to watch what the legislative session does. But know that we do have I believe, a financial model that takes into some of the considerations of financial risk. And we do the best we can to help maintain or plan for any of these these events, but of course, any one of them can overcome some of the contingencies we have in place. And this the fund balance analysis you see each month, the 2018-19 initial budget. And you'll see that across the board that our total planned budgetary fund balance is balanced with a total fund balance estimated at $28,930,000. These are the financials. Our initial budget September 1 had an estimated revenue of $71 million. Our proposed amendments at this board meeting, about $15,000 in estimated revenue, bringing in $72,293,000. And you see these functions again that are appropriated at the campus level make up 76% of all our appropriations in the general fund. Again, we had a balanced initial budget of $71 million in appropriations that matched our estimated revenue. And our proposed amendments are not impacting the budgetary fund balance in this that you received in your board packets. And this is a summary of our bond projects that we'll keep our eye on in each month. And it's December 10th, 2018. We have a total of $175 million that we've sold in our authorized bonds, which was $240 million. And these are the board-approved bond projects. And I remember the ones that say pending are the board-approved projects, but not budget. And then as the board approves the budget, you'll see that they're approved. And when they're completed, you'll see the status change. And you can look down this in the sheet as the land and the vestibules and the Walker Middle School and Strike Middle School are, like Rick said, is coming to you all tonight. And these are the other projects that the board has approved up to date with the project budgets and the year-to-date expenditures. You can see out of the issued bond balance of $150 million, and this is netting the budget, the project budgets. So this remaining after the sold bonds. And the general fund funded the transportation operation building. You can see there's year-to-date expenditures, $4 million and about $6.8 million left on that project. And these are the rest of the financials in the board packet. And the administration recommends approval of the October 2018 financial reports as presented.
Need a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Discuss and approve Little Elm ISD interlocal summary report.
Yes, we have just one item on this from Dr. Cindy Micka for Region 12 ESC. It's the innovative learning environment work, which includes administrator planning, meeting, needs assessment, ongoing electronic communication and support, and customized instructional coaching for the middle school teachers. And the administration recommends approval of the Little Elm ISD interlocal summary report as submitted.
Any need a motion to approve as submitted?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any questions for Mr. Anderson?
I have one very quick one. Is this to replace or update an existing program you're using or just something completely new that you found? As I know you come up with some amazing tools that that work very well for us.
Okay, this is actually a contract with Region 12 out of Waco and the Huckabee Lex Lab for preparing our teachers for the new learning environments at both Strike and Walker.
Okay.
We can build the learning environments as innovative as we want, but until we can change the mindset and the skill set of our teachers to adapt to those learning environments, we're just building spaces. And so this is a 3-year contract with them to get us up and ready. And then it involves this year, the actual learning will occur at the district leadership level and the campus leadership level. And then beginning next fall is when all of our middle level teachers, grades 6 and 8 throughout the district, will have intensive training and virtual coaching to prepare them for the new learning environments.
And we have some teachers now that already know this just because of Prestwick and they're in that environment today, right?
Yes, just to some extent. And we've also taken teachers from both Prestwick and the middle school down to some of these learning environments to start wetting their whistle and getting them more ready. But this is even going a step further than the learning environments that we have at Prestwick.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just to make sure and clarify, you said it was a 3-year plan, right? So does this be
Yes, sir.
each year or total for the 3 years?
It was broken down into the actual, that is the amount for the actual contract. This year's amount is $7,000.
Okay, so
And
so
so
I
it's
just want to make sure, I
broken-
did want to make
yes,
sure that
no.
it was total for the 3
That's a
years.
total contract, yes,
Okay,
sir.
perfect. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and approve LEISD expenditures over 50,000 summary report.
And this here, we again only have one contract or one expenditure on here from Clay Walker and Technology. It is identity automation. And it's the Rapid Identity automates the full account lifecycle of all users, closing security gaps and identity and access controls and host end users productivity. And this is a new charge of $52,000. The administration recommends approval of Little Elm ISD expenditures over $50,000 summary report as submitted.
I need a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? I just had one question. So is this is to assist in closing security gaps, it says, for lost devices?
Actually, so when we get new students in or we get new employees in, we have to provision their accounts in a ton of different systems, and we're doing a lot of that by hand. This is going to automate a lot of that. And where the security comes in is when the employee leaves, is HR essentially will be able to say, we need to shut off all accounts, and boom, they're all cut off. We don't have to remember to go cut that off, so.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and approve LEISD grounds mowing and maintenance. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Just here to discuss we went out for an RFP for grounds maintenance services in November, received them on November 27th. The reason why we do this is our current contract will be ending first part of January. And so there was a need to go out for RFP for grounds maintenance and mowing services. We had several submit proposals, and Haven Landscaping was the best value for that. And so they were the #1 ranked bidder. The contract start date would be from, let's say the board did approve it tonight, it'll be a 3-year contract. And then there'll be 2 additional 1-year renewals if we so choose. Both parties need to agree to that. We go to, this is kind of the scope of services that you see. It's in more detail if you look at the actual RFP in your board packet, you'll see actual breakdowns of actually what they do. It's very, very specific. It does break down the number of mowing cycles, when they do it as well. And so you can see that. We've done over the last 2 or 3 years, a really good program of pre and post emergence. And so it takes about 3 to 4 years before you see the fruits of that, to be honest with you. And so we've also done, Mr. Cogdell and his team's done a great job trying to get our irrigation systems back up to running. As part of this agreement, that's a full-time licensed irrigator will be part of their team that help us with the maintenance of those. If you go to the next slide there, this is just a breakdown. You'll see in the submittal that Haven did, what I did was I went over there and totaled on the end for you, so you can see the actual total that the contract would be for. The total amount that we're requesting tonight is $344,690.88. To give you a little perspective, it's about a little under $6,000 of what we're currently paying. And so we are getting some more services. We're adding the athletic complex to that. And so by going out for this RFP, I think we've done a great job with the district and the constituents' money and to make sure we get a great deal. I will note that one thing, that the athletic fields are not part of this contract. We do those in-house to make sure that we kind of keep close hand on those. The coaches are very particular about their fields. And so we want to make sure that we stay close eye on that. So the imminent approval of Haven Landscape and Irrigation Incorporated as providing the best value for LESD grounds, mowing, and maintenance services, and approves the superintendent or designee to execute final contract based upon the RFP 2018-852-10.
I need a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board?
Yes. What about the 2 new middle schools? How will those be affected? Because we're doing a 3-year term. We'll have new middle schools in under 2. So what will we go back and negotiate with New Haven on the sites based upon?
Yes. And so we'll be able to expand that contract with that, adding the 2 middle schools. Actually, the first year, Mr. Martin told me that he's going to take care of that the first year under the construction, make sure that nobody's pointing fingers at each other. And so we appreciate Mr. Martin doing that for us. So 1 year after the middle school's open, we'll do an expansion of the contract with Haven.
Okay, so that'll be basically right then at the term where the 2 1-year
That's correct.
renewals come in. Okay,
That's correct.
perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
And you said this cost comparison was lower? than what was-
Actually, it's a little bit higher, almost $6,000 higher, but we are adding the athletic complex. Currently, our team are doing that. And so if we add that, it actually would be lower.
Mr. Reeves, I've got a quick question
Sure.
on there, and I don't know if I saw it. The 30 acres over in Oak Point that we just closed on, is that in this contract?
That's correct. If you look as a breakdown, you see our current campuses and then the undeveloped properties is what they call it. So that is added to it.
So if by chance, I believe we have someone right now that's taking care of that property,
That's correct.
farming.
That's correct.
If we continue that,
That's
does
correct.
that price come off of
That's
here?
correct. That price, that's a great point, Mr. Gallagher. So we do have that lease agreement as part of the sale of the property or the purchase of the property. And so that cost would come off.
Okay, because that's something that we're exploring is there is somebody who's taking care of that property now, and
That's
we're
right.
exploring that option to continue that.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Discuss and approve resolution adopting the prevailing wage rate for construction projects.
So I'm sorry to say, Ms. Myers, but we're going to have to do another resolution for prevailing wage rate. And so pursuant to the Texas Government Code that the board is required to set those prevailing wage rates. And so you those in your board packet. And so these correspond with the wage rates that Mr. Martin's doing with the 2 middle schools and also with our job order contracting firms that the board approved a couple of months ago. And so we just, the administration recommends approval of the prevailing wage rates as noted.
I'm on 94. Oh, am I at the wrong spot? Yeah. But is it,
You can read this.
I'm just wondering, is it there? Oh, it's not this. Oh.
Should just be one, a little bit, one.
One page. All right. We need a motion to approve resolution. Whereas the Little Elm Independent School District is a public body which enters into contracts for the construction of public works on its behalf. And whereas Texas Government Code 2258.021 provides that a worker employed on a public work by or on behalf of a political subdivision of the state shall be paid not less than the general prevailing rate of per diem wages for work of a similar character in the locality in which the work is performed, and not less than the general prevailing rate of per diem wages for legal holiday and overtime work. And whereas the district is required by Texas Government Code 2258.022 to determine for contracts for public works awarded by the district, the general prevailing rate of per diem wages in the locality in which the public works are to be performed for each craft or type of worker needed to execute the contracts, and the prevailing rate for legal holiday and overtime work. And whereas Texas Government Code 2258.022A provides that the district shall determine said prevailing rates by conducting a survey of the wages received by classes of workers employed on projects of a character similar to the contract work in the political subdivision of the state in which the public work is to be performed, or by using the prevailing wage rate as determined by the United States Department of Labor in accordance with the Davis-Bacon Act and its subsequent amendments. And whereas pursuant to Texas Government Code 2258.022A1, the district shall use the prevailing wage rate as determined by the United States Department of Labor in accordance with the Davis-Bacon Act. Now therefore be it resolved that based on the recitals above, the Board of Trustees of Little Elm Independent School District hereby adopts the prevailing wage rate scale and the prevailing rate for legal holiday and overtime work attached to and incorporated herein for all purposes as Exhibit A for contracts for public works awarded by the district in accordance with the Texas Government Code 2258.022.
So moved.
I need a second. Second. Sorry. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, what was the ad? What's the ad?
I will.
Davis-Bacon.
No.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and approve the LEIC insurance roof replacement projects.
We have two projects that are related to insurance replacement of insurance replacement. And so those are Hackberry Elementary School and Lakeside Middle School. Remember, these are two that we tried to bid last year, but we didn't get one bid on one of them, and we got one bid that was twice as much. No offense to our contractors in here, but there was twice as much as required. So
I think they
working
take
with-
offense.
Okay, working with TASB, we said let's just wait a year. Let's find a better time to take these out to bid again. And so we did that. And so there were some competitive sealed proposals that we received on November 26th. And out of those two, CBS Roofing was considered the best value to the district. And so for Hackberry Elementary School, I did a breakdown for you so you can see that the TASB, our insurance provider, will pay for the like kind of quality of the existing roof. But there's some additional costs that they will not take into account. So for instance, the new codes require additional insulation. And so they only pay for 10%. They take the cost of the roof and they give you 10% towards the additional insulation. And so for Hackberry Elementary School, that'll be $166,209 for the added insulation. You have to do that per the code. The town or municipality will not let you redo the roof unless you do that. We are looking at adding, modifying the cap sheet from a modified bit system to a 6 mil PVC fleece back roofing system. That's a more of a cool roof system. It's a welded system. It's a better roof. We are still talking with them about reimbursing us for that. And so we're still in negotiations with them about that. Yes. And so when we say that, that's just one layer. There's actually two more layers underneath that. So it's like a single ply system, but there's another couple layers underneath that. And then we want to add 3 roof access ladders, roof to roof access ladder, and for $21,100. So you see from TASB, it's a little over $1 million that they'll reimburse us. And then for the cost to LEISD, it would be $243,789. And so that would be the cost. If we go to Lakeside Middle School, the cost breakdown, you see that the cost of the roof and the additional installation will be $633,590.12. We're looking at adding 3 roof-to-roof access ladders for little over 24,000. There are some site grading modifications that we've seen kind of in some areas that we want to make sure we address. And so that's where the downspouts come through. We want to make sure that it's not coming back up through the building. And then we also want to change that cap sheet like we're doing instead of the modified bid system. So the reimbursement from TASB will be about 1.4 million. And then it'll be a little over $800,000 for LAISD. And so you're looking at over $1 million for the replacement of both roofs. So the administration is recommending approval of CBS as the best value to the district and providing the superintendent or their designee the ability to negotiate the final contract. And so I'll be happy to answer questions.
Need a motion to approve as submitted? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah. I'm just trying to understand why the jump from Hackberry to Lakeside on the first of the additional installation. It seems, I know it's a bigger school, but I'm just saying it seems extraordinary for that much more spacing. I mean, is that, when we say Lakeside, is that Lakeside and Powell or just
No.
Lakeside?
Just Lakeside, so you're very astute, Mr. Olson. So what happened was the lowest bidder on that was Paragon Roofing Systems. And so if you look at the bid tabulation form that was addressed, there's a difference of about $300,000 between those 2 roofing companies. TASB will only reimburse you for the lowest bid. The reason why they were not the best value is because they are doing 3 other roofs for Mr. Martin here coming up, if the board so chooses. That means they would have 3 plus the 2. That would be 5. We feel that would be very, very difficult for them to provide that within next summer and also get good quality, especially with the labor market the way it is now. And so that's the difference in cost. So they're only going to reimburse us for the lowest bid, not the best value. But we are still in negotiations with TASB because at one point they did say that they would make the difference up and then they've changed their mind. So we want to continue our discussions with them. We wanted to show you the biggest costs so we didn't have to come back.
Or worst case scenario?
That's correct.
Okay.
At the same time, though, isn't part of the problem we had with Lakeside the fact that there are basically 4 or 5 different types of roofs on there? And while
36 different
Okay.
types.
And while we
Okay.
could, and while we basically, several companies came out last year and basically said, no, thank you, and walked away and said,
That's
I'm not going
correct.
to do it.
That's correct.
Okay.
They didn't want to touch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there,
That's why I was saying,
is there a
hey, we
reason
finally
we
have
would
someone agree to do this.
rebid it to see if you can get it closer? Or would that, I know it's been,
I think the
Yeah.
option would be either to go with that CBS number or, and if we did, with that lower bid, I just would feel, after discussions with Mr. Martin and our team and also our roofing consultant, we feel very, very concerned about giving all projects to one roofing firm. They're also going to be doing a lot of other projects within the area.
Mhm.
And so we just don't think we're going to get a good product and a good team.
Try and rush through it too fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So much.
Thanks, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Martin's back up. Discuss and approve roof replacement projects, Brent Chavez and Zellers.
Speaking of said roofs.
Now for the rest of the story.
For the story.
I have the three roofs at Brent, Chavez, and here at Sellers. Bid package number 2 had grouped these 3 together as being bond projects and not insurance projects, but they are on the list of things that needed to be done. In your packet, you'll have the bid tab, which shows you the comparison across the line. Paragon Roofing was the lowest bidder in this bid package when you look at all 3 of the projects across the board. You also have their proposal form in there, which backs up the numbers. And then the very last thing in your packet should be the roof replacement master budget, which lists each of those 3 projects that from Paragon's proposal, Also includes our soft costs for our consultant and a small contingency.
I just turned my head.
So we're recommending approval of Ergon Roofing as the vendor to do these 3 roofs for the amounts that are shown as providing the best value for the district. And that you authorize not only approve those, them as the vendor, but also the master budget that's also included in the package. And that you authorize the superintendent or his designee to negotiate the required contracts, which we already have in-house.
All right, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any questions for Mr. Martin?
Rick, is there any particular reason why it's higher than all the rest? I mean,
It's a whole roof.
So the other ones are just partial?
Correct.
Okay.
They're the low slope portions of those 2 schools because the major slope over the classroom wings is in good shape. This is like over the gymnasium and the cafeteria.
Okay. All right. I just, the number seemed double as high. I just wanted to make sure. what
That's an
exactly-
entire roof here.
Entire roof. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Well, I wasn't that. I was worried about what exactly was, if there was something we were unaware of, some bigger issue.
Partial, yeah.
And President Myers, I want to point out, just for the public that's watching online, that these numbers are in our board book, that they can pull these up on our website.
The only question I had was there's no insurance value coming back on any of these.
No, ma'am.
All right, any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
A side note, if I may,
Yes.
Paragon is currently under contract and working almost a dozen other school projects with various ISDs in the area. All but 2 of those projects will extend through the summer when we need them to do ours. So not only were they the lowest bidder, but they also, back to what Rod was saying about the insurance projects, they're going to have 10 or so going into the summer, plus these 3 that we give them. If we were trying to give them something as major as the middle school, we could have a lot of things drop through the cracks. So that helped with some of that decision.
All right. Next up, discuss and approve project budget and construction GMP for Strike Middle School.
Yes, ma'am. In your budget for strike, in your board packet, you'll find our master budget, similar to what we've done before. You'll also find a copy of the Cadence and Chain GMP for that project, different line items, and give us the total. On the master budget, the green shaded area, if you have it, if it's in color, you add all those numbers up and that's their GMP number. Everything else on there is either offsite development, soft costs, FF&E, everything else it's going to take to outfit this building. So what you have is a total project budget of $67,513,977 and change, with $56,189,819, the GMP portion of that budget. We're recommending approval of the project budget and GMP for Lowell H. Strike Middle School as presented, and authorize the superintendent or his designee to negotiate and execute the required contracts.
A motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Martin? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and approve project budget and construction GMP for Walker Middle School.
In your packet again, you'll have the same pieces of information. You'll have a master contract, which includes the Balfour Beatty GMP. You have the breakdown of the line items there, as well as And again, we are recommending approval of the project budget and GMP for Jerry R. Walker Middle School as presented, and authorize the superintendent or his designee to negotiate and execute the required contracts.
I need a motion to approve as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
If you compare the GMPs, they are very close.
That's what I was
gonna
actually,
say,
I was
yeah.
just actually doing that. I was comparing the GMPs to make sure
The differences
you're
you'll
getting a good
see,
deal.
the differences you'll see will be the offsite development work,
You're right.
and also some of the site work that we
Needs to be
do.
done at some, one of the sites, yeah, correct.
Absolutely not.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Yes. All right, last item under action, discuss and approve LEISD Board of Trustees social media guidelines. I think we have them in the board book. I'm not there yet. Here we go. So open discussion on the items that this was from our last workshop presented to the district's attorney just to review and see what we could incorporate into that and just kind of stab at what Jason had originally produced. So I'm going to open it up for comments. Well, first, I need a motion to approve. Do we have a second? All right, so now I'll open it up for comments, questions, concerns.
Yeah, my only concern with this is I understand what the attorney's doing and understand his reasoning for some of the changes in language from the original proposed, but it's getting away from what the intent was, in my opinion. My intent, in my opinion, was to clearly identify, although we may not be in our role as a school board member, the fact is we are a school board member 24/7. If I go to the high school for something about my son, I'm not Jason Olson, the parent. I am Jason Olson, the school board member who happens to be a parent of this particular child. And it's the same way for all of us. If any of us go to the campus or we're out and about in the community, we're not off. We're on 24/7. And to me, part of what he brought within this language is basically kind of eliminating that and basically saying, oh, well, it's only when you're in your actual obligations and duties. And that's not what my intent was in bringing this. My intent in bringing this was to make sure we're all aware that we're on 24/7. Therefore, we need to be held to a higher standard of ourselves. Therefore, we need to be very wary of what we post, not only personally, but when we post as school board members. Because even when we post personally, it's still Leanna Harding. But it may be my personal page, but I'm still a school board member, and that's what everybody knows. And that's, like I said, I understand what he's doing, but actually in this, I would want to take out the middle sentence in the first paragraph, because I want this really explicitly for this board to understand that we are to hold each other to a higher standard. There are certain things we should follow, and therefore there's none of this when we're in our acting capacity. We're a school board member 24/7 as long as we're elected.
President Myers, and if I can say something, the nice thing about this is it's not policy, it's guidelines. So the board may choose to not vote on this. These were recommendations made by the attorney, really with, I believe with the thinking that it was policy, but it's not policy, it's guidelines. It will go into your operating procedures. So the board can revise it back, take something out, add something. Because again, it's not policy, it's guidelines, and really the only ones that can police the board are the board.
Yeah.
I can't police the board. So only you guys can police yourselves. So you could go back, and if you wanted that original copy, we could bring that back to the board, or if you want to revise this one, back for a vote, if that's for y'all to decide.
Well, one of the things you also have to remember is even though, yes, we are a trustee, and we are a trustee even when we're not acting as a trustee, we still have certain rights and obligations, things that we can do. And even as, if I want to post something that you might not agree with, doesn't mean that you have a right to tell me I can't. Because then you start going on First Amendment rights if we're going to go there. So you have to be very, very careful. And we do want to put stuff out there because some people may not be aware of what they're doing or what they're posting, but having that out there does not hurt. But it needs to be guidelines because we're not employees. And if what we're posting isn't liked, our consequence could come from the voters. So that's where we need to be careful, because if we start trying to dictate, and because I actually have an issue with the word prohibited, because you
Yeah, on the
get
last
into that one.
last one.
No, not even on the last one, because with, district resources, there is a line there that needs to be drawn. It is in the the third paragraph down. It says examples of prohibited social media conduct. It just needs to be more concise if you're writing a policy, or not even a policy, but even a guideline, because you don't want this interpreted incorrectly. Like, what are you actually prohibiting? Because technically right now, I could post something about our current president and I could have 20 people come back and say that's hostile, that what I've said is something bad. So we have to be very, very concise, even though it's guidelines. We still need to be a little bit more concise on what we're saying, but we also have to be careful and not to cross that boundary and start impeding on individual rights too.
And I think that's what the attorney was trying to convey is, while I do agree with Jason, as a former board member, you're always viewed as a board member. But I think from the legal side of things, technically, you're really only technically a board member when there's a quorum. That's the way the law views you is, you're really only acting as a board member when there's a quorum. But public perception, you're a board member, and that's
Perception
just,
is reality.
yeah.
It's been said multiple times, multiple different ways on different topics, and that's
It is.
that's to me this. I mean, this is just something I feel strongly about, that I feel, although we need to police each other, and I do agree, Lena, you're right. You have your first right amendments and stuff. I'm not disputing that, not trying to argue the Constitution. I'm just saying we as a board need to set something where we agree that there's going to be a standard of decorum around particular topics, and that we all need to agree with that. And this is a guideline. There's nothing, I can't stop you.
Well, it could
That's-
change when we have new board members too.
And that's right. They can read this, and at that point in time, maybe they feel something's different, or they want to change something, whatever. I just, for this board and with me, this is just something I feel strongly about, that I think we need to do to make sure we're all on the same page. And this is one way of doing it. We have guidelines that we are supposed to follow. And I'm sorry, yeah, legally, I'm not a board member when I walk out of here when we adjourn, but I'm sorry, I'm still a board member. That's what everybody knows the 7 of us up here as board
Well,
members.
and I applaud the board, because I think everyone, as you look at this, you see the benefit of doing it. Having the guidelines about raising the level of decorum, having a certain level. And that is something that I'm proud about as far as this board, just the focus on what you guys do, not just for the district, but the way you represent the district. So I can take this back, have the attorney do some revisions, or again, it can come directly from y'all, because it is guidelines. It's not policy.
Well, the original doc that we had, and did everybody
Everybody's got it.
agree to that? Was there any changes? I know
had
there
a
were,
lot of
I was gonna say there were some red lines I think I saw.
Right, and I think I actually incorporated most of the red lines, and it was all in the last document to the attorney, if I
Yeah.
remember right.
The one that
We-
went to the attorney had all the changes and
Yeah,
everything.
had all
that-
the changes,
that
because we were
talked
given it
about
one last,
in-
It did.
Yeah,
yeah, it had some of the,
I think
Yeah.
it did.
I think, I don't know, I sent you the
Yeah,
original.
I
I never
know.
saw this until board book.
No,
right.
not this one, but
Or
the,
when
But I think
you sent
comments,
it to
comments
us,
and
yeah.
suggestions were taken. We input some of the changes in there too. This was actually, came out, once again, I think coming out to the workshop, basically saying, hey, well, let's let the attorney look at it, just legal standpoint, get his, their opinion of how we wrote this. Because once again, this is, for the people watching us live, I mean, there's nothing out there. No district has a board member social media policy.
but they're
So-
coming.
This is something that, this is something I've done research on and gotten, I went out and searched 10, 15 different districts. Nobody has anything.
Mhm.
I mean, we all have them for the employees, but there's not one for board members. And so this is, kind of setting what we feel is important to us. And so I'm not, like I said, there's one sentence in there that the attorney put, I don't agree with it. I want it out. I mean, I'm not going to vote for it as is, because one sentence I want out of there, because I think we are board members 24/7.
Can we table
Legal or
this
not
till
legal?
next month? Because I'm
Sure,
with you.
yeah.
'Cause
I'm
there's-
fine, I'm fine. with it. Actually, I was
Yeah.
going to actually suggest,
Mhm.
although we're having great discussion, I think we do need to table it, because we do have 3 people.
I was gonna mention.
They're not
that as
here.
well.
They're not here,
Yeah.
but they do need to have their say. So I would like to go and table it for next month. Would like to have another open discussion. I'll tell you what, if you can send it back to the attorney.
Well,
um,
I would like that, but also maybe have both documents. that we
What I
can-
Well,
like
if you look at the red
is-
line, you can see the red, if you look at the one he sent us, you can actually see the red line of what the original document said, what they've scratched out.
I can't.
You can?
Well, I'll tell you
No,
what.
not in the board book.
Not in the board,
Yeah.
book, no.
Oh, in the-
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
will
what we got back from
send,
the attorney from the feedback, it actually, you can see all the red lines in it, so you can see what they've taken out, what adjustments
I'll make
they've
sure
made.
that I send the original, and then the original one that,
Right, that we did, and we approved for the most part.
and then I'll send this one again, just so you have the two. But at the end of the day, again, it's not policy, it's a guideline. So, you guys can decide when we do come back if you want to vote on the one.
the one I'd like,
The one-
yeah, the one
part
thing that I'd like to make
of-
sure that we do, and I think we're all in agreement on this, is whatever if we do pass this, at least make it something that everyone is going to be at least willing to try and live up to. And right now, the big problem I have, although, is basically the same thing that Leanna said, is there's right there in paragraph 4 or 5, whatever, prohibited. Granted, a lot of that stuff that they're talking about in that, I don't think any of us would ever do, but by all means, none of that is by law is prohibited in any way, shape, or form. So that's my main concern. Jason, like you said, I'd like to see the original one that you brought to us, then the red ink one that we submitted to the attorney, and then compare it to this one. I'd like to see the whole thing, if
Whole
we could
thing.
get all 3 versions, just so we can see where we started, what we agreed to, and then what was at, and, go from there.
Change, yeah, that's fine.
It just gives an idea where we're at and everything.
And I think
so.
the original is the one that has the red lines through it, but I'll send to,
Because I think the one that
Yeah,
I'll send
I'll
clean
go back and look
copies.
at what I actually first proposed, because then I think I came back and based
Because
upon
you changed
feedback,
it.
based upon feedback from all the board members, I think I went in and made some adjustments. That's what actually came to the board, and then we took to the attorney. So to
Yeah.
Dan's point, there's actually, I think, 3 levels. There's the original modifications after feedback from
There's
board
the red
members.
ink, and then there's the
Then,
attorney.
then there's the red ink from the attorney.
Yeah.
and I love attorneys, but you can send anything to an attorney and it's going to come back with,
Oh, yeah, it's gonna come back red. I mean,
It's very wordy.
Yeah, well, and no matter what, like, and I think I agree completely with what you said, Melissa. Even if all 4 of us can agree completely, there are 3 people here. So this does affect all of us. We need to wait till we have
Right. I'm
everyone
fine.
here.
And
to
I,
make a decision on it.
like I said, I'm fine with waiting. We can put it off till next month, and we can all go back and review it and have, get all the original copies to everybody.
Well, and I think the overall goal was to put something in place
Right.
that
Mhm.
just elevates our level of thinking as board members.
Correct.
Obviously, whatever we do out in social media, the voters are going to
Mhm.
decide,
Right.
which way
The consequences.
exactly
Yeah.
for us. So, but this just gives us a more professional stature, I think.
And they are doing it at a lot of the TASB and NSBA that we are all at. A lot of those, there are the law firms that are out there now that are saying that the are going to be coming down to boards very soon because there are litigations going on in the state of Texas right now over board member actions on social media.
Right.
So, I mean, it's something like this to protect ourselves and protect the district.
Yeah, but some of
It's
those
going to have
were-
to start being put in
Some of
place.
those were people
Understand.
posting confidential
Oh, yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but once again, this kind of,
This brings that
once
to
again,
light.
it brings it to
Well,
light,
right,
making
and that's,
sure
that's
we
where it
don't.
says prohibited, and I'm like,
But
no,
with
that
that,
one's
but
perfect.
without that in place, we could, the reason why that's happening is those districts actually cannot even now go in and censure that board member for putting confidential information out there because it's not in their guidelines. There's nothing that says they can't do it.
They can be censored by TEA. but-
I mean, there are, but there's not something like this
Yeah.
that makes it easy to read, and it's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Because you need to have, because this is also something that wasn't around 10 years ago. That
No.
was a problem.
Well, but I think too, I mean, we have to just keep in mind, these again are guidelines that we as a board decide to follow, but we're not legally bound by.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
We're just trying to say, hey, we recognize that there are dangers out
exactly.
there.
All right, so
Okay.
we do have a motion on the table. We
Do
want
we need to
to
revise it to table it?
I need another motion.
table.
So I'd like to make a motion, we table this till the January meeting.
Question, do you have to vote on the first motion?
No. So we just need a second.
Second.
And then any question, discussion on that?
No.
All right, all those in favor to table? Any opposed? All right. I will put that down for the next meeting agenda.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, we only have one item on there. I need a motion to approve consent as is.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right. I don't have really any comments other to say Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy Holidays. And I hope everybody enjoys their time off with family, friends, and relaxes a little bit after the crazy last few weeks and months. So that's all I really had, Mr. Olson.
just echo those. Happy holidays to everybody. Hope you get some well-deserved time off. The only other thing I wanted to do is just, and I've sent pictures to Daniel and Mr. Contreras and everybody else, just the great job the Presswick Middle School Band did. They went last Friday to 2 assisted senior living centers and played Christmas carols for the citizens. And so it was great. Kids did really well, real well behaved. Roses may not have liked us when we came through with as many kids as we did, but kids were well behaved. They did a great job. And so just thank you to Ms. Hernandez. She did a great job with kids getting them out there. I can't wait for 2 middle school bands to be doing that, both of them, you know, at the same time. It was a great event. So, and that's, I think, it for me.
Ms. Hardy?
I had something, but I remember, so, happy
Want us-
holidays,
we'll
Merry
skip over you and
Christmas.
come back?
No, I
Okay.
just- I had something, but I'm sure I'll email it later on. I can't remember what it was. It was actually a request for something. So anyway.
Mr.
Thank you,
Blackwood?
guys.
Again, thank staff and everyone very much for everything that you've done. I know we were kind of joking, Ms. Titten earlier, but I do think for next year's class, make a board meeting one of their required attendees or attendants. So just so we can, so we're not so lonely. We can have some
You
people here
won't
at
get
the
anybody in
end.
the class.
Yeah, so we
You're
have
like,
some
"No,
people here at the
forget
end.
it. Forget it.
No, I just think something like that would be a great idea. But other than that, thank you everyone for everything you've done.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah, just thank you, staff, for staying late. We appreciate you. And Cecilia, thank you. I wanted to thank you to Cecilia and to Ms. Padilla. Thank you for all that you do as well. And
You're a rock.
yeah, and I'll just say a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. It's hard to believe that this semester is already completed, but so many great things are going on and more great things are to come. So just thank you to everyone for your hard work and enjoy your time off.
I need a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned at 9:33.
You skipped twice.